Hi, everybody. I'm John McLaughlin, and Gabby Franco is in the house.
Thank you,
Welcome
John.
once again to a special segment of Warrior Wednesday, and Gabby Franco is with us. She's one of the women of Walther now, you might say, former top shot competitor, Olympian, competitive shooter. So first of all, welcome and kind of bring folks up to date that maybe haven't seen you since way back in the day of Top Shot 4 and 5.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. And I'm very excited to be here and talking to you about, so many things, especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. Life has changed in so many ways. I just literally finished my bachelor's. It took me only 20 years. And this is funny because I was studying civil engineering in Venezuela when I decided to move to the United States, so I have to leave that behind. 10 years later, I thought I was ready to do it. And then life came along and personal decisions, difficult decisions I have to make. Like I lost my job, divorce, and had to put that on pause. And 10 years later, after that, I was finally able to, start college, and I yesterday finished. So I'm beyond excited. So I'm, competing, training, not so much giving so many classes now because of school has taken so much out of me, and I'm a very dedicated person. So I'm literally graduating with a 3.98 GPA.
Oh, wow.
And it has been hard, and trying to keep everything at the same level. Not because I was super high in school meant I was going to leave everything behind, because I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a businesswoman. So, but I'm very excited to have that achievement, personal achievement, besides anything else.
One thing I wanted to ask you before we get into all the other stuff is, back when you were competing, and even now as you're shooting the competitions representing Walther, there's a book we all had to read as firearms instructor called With Winning in Mind. I'm sure you're familiar with that book. And talk to me about mentally preparing, not just the physical training and the repetitions, but preparing the mind. I know you've talked about that in the past.
Well, I think one of the biggest things, often we think about, like you say, training the mind, mental toughness, how to win, how to achieve. I think to me particularly, the first and most important thing is recognizing that I'm a human who makes mistakes. I'm a human who is flawed. And within those flaws, recognizing those flaws helps me be realistic of my goals, my expectations, and what do I want to achieve. So I think that's, to me, that it has to be the basics. I think when people say, oh, I want to be this individual, but forget that they are human beings, and then they get and then they have a big drop in their scores or competitions, or something goes bad and they get devastated. It is hard for them to get back up. But if you are realistic with yourself and say, okay, that happens, I'm human, but that doesn't mean I cannot keep on going forward. So to me, that's the first, like a basic layer. The second layer is understanding that every little thing that you do adds up. And when I'm saying every little thing that you do, I'm not talking about just in training. I'm talking about in real life. So, for instance, when you talk about mental toughness, people think of mental toughness in their sport or at work. In reality, that's, in my mind, this is not how you build your mental toughness. Your mental toughness is built up every time, every little thing's at home. When you're talking to your spouse, when you're driving and somebody cuts you off, when your kid is driving you nuts, when you hit your toe and you want to throw the world. And so that is how you build your mental toughness. It's just the little things on every day, every second of your life, that you can control your emotions, you control your thoughts, you control your actions, and you have a clear perspective of who you are, and that's how you conduct yourself. Instead of creating this facade right? Because it's literally a facade when you are an individual at sports, but you are not that individual at home. You're not that individual at work. So the best way to really build you up, not only build you up, but maintain it, because that's the hard part. Maintaining that level of mental toughness is when you elevate all those trainings through daily life, to your daily, instead of just thinking of my sport or my work.
Very good approach there. You can send us a bill for your class. Thank you very much. So let's jump back to Venezuela for a moment. What you were competing when you lived in Venezuela, then you come to the US. For those that haven't traveled much outside of the country, Second Amendment wise, tell me about the difference. What kind of shock that was from where you were to where you are now?
Well, I think we talk here about the United States, about the Second Amendment. I think it's something universal, or that's how we believe it is. But around the world, Second Amendment literally doesn't exist. Most people don't have no idea what that means, because not every country around the world have that concept of this is my God-given rights. So in Venezuela, we didn't have that per se. We had a privilege to owning firearms. So when I lived in Venezuela, people could own firearms, could go hunting, they could conceal carry license, they would go and take a class, almost like, more strict, I would say, possibly like California or levels, more or less, but at least people were able to do it. Maybe a little bit lax. But what I'm saying is that there was at least a possibility. With effort, you could do it, right? Nowadays, there's obviously there's nothing. There's completely banned. There's people cannot, well, of course, except for the criminals, but regular people cannot own and have or conceal carry a firearm. But when I came to the United States and I started learning about the Second Amendment, so I was like, what is this thing about the Second Amendment? I'm like, I don't get it. What do you mean this is a right? And when I started learning about it, I was like, man, this is brilliant. I was like, this is just something that I wish people would have in Venezuela or in Colombia, when, for instance, the farmers are always, at the mercy or village, terrorized by terrorist organizations in Colombia, even farmers in Venezuela, by the drug cartels, and all over the world. Look at Africa. People are terrorized by these guerrillas and armed organizations. So to me, was kind of like my brain kind of exploded, like, wow, this is phenomenal. And from the get-go, I understood and valued such right and the way we see in the United States. However, I have to say quickly that that's not always the same approach Hispanics bring or have when they learn about the Second Amendment. To me, it was easy to see that because I grew up in the firearms. As a little kid, I was taught, educated. We never had any issues. Even though I learned when I was 11 years old, I was responsible for my 22 and my air pistol. But unfortunately, in Latin America and many other countries of the world, the gun is vilified. The problem is the firearm and not the individual. So, but it was, to me, very refreshing and like, this is amazing when I learned about the Second Amendment.
So it's been some years now since Top Shot. Just kind of tell me how that changed your life and kind of the path you're on now, how that came about.
Yes. So for many of you don't know, but when I applied for Top Shot, I was going through one of the most difficult times in my life. That time I was telling you, when I had to quit school, I lost my job, divorce. Talk about so bad. Like I was rock bottom. And I was building my career as a firearms instructor. And I remember good friends of mine, they discouraged me from applying for Top Shot because they were saying, Gabby, most women are eliminated at the beginning. You're building your career as a firearms instructor. If you get eliminated at first, that's going to destroy your credibility and all that stuff. And this was good friends, and I knew they had very good intentions. And I said, no, I will go there. First of all, I'm going to do my best. Mm-hmm. And second of all, nobody can take away that I went to the Olympic Games, that I won medals internationally and nationally. And so I think that attitude was definitely what kept me pushing forward. And people saw that through the TV. That, I also went into the show thinking that I was not only representing myself, I was representing my family, my friends, my community, the firearms community, who we are as individuals, respectful, educated, respectful of the firearms, respectful to our competitors. And so that view, that opening to the world, that people could see who I am, was definitely something that catapulted my career to ways that I am today. So I'm very thankful that I saw beyond the challenges and was able to see a little bit more. Besides, in my mind, I was like, where in my life I'm gonna say I was in a TV show, I was like, of course I'm gonna do it. Life is all about experiences, and Top Shot 4 and season 5 for sure was one of the greatest things in my life. Like, I can say that was fun, and I'm glad I did it.
And now you've gone from way back when with the first shots with a 22 long rifle Walther pistol to now representing Walther, or being, one of their sponsored shooters. Tell me a little bit about good things coming back.
I know, I shot a 22. It was a GSP 22, 22 caliber. It's a Walther GSP, that's a model, for sport pistol. I shot that since I was a teenager, represented the country, Venezuela, with that pistol, shot throughout my Olympic career with that pistol. And if somebody would have told me then, even at the Olympic Games, in 20 years, Walther will be your sponsor, I would have never believed you. And sure enough, life goes in circles. And I have been shooting for Walther. This is going to be my 5th year with them. Very proud to be sponsored by Walther, and now also sponsored by Primary Arms. Great companies who are very good supporters of the Second Amendment. And to me, that was huge. And that's one of the reasons, and for many other reasons, that I only have just a few sponsors. Because the first thing I tell them, I don't care, whatever the deal we have, the most important thing for me is that I can speak up. It's difficult when you are in the public eye and you talk about politics and controversial things. And they were like, nope, you can talk politics, Second Amendment. And, they trust that for who I am, and that I can engage in these conversations respectfully and with truth, I think, on my end, when it comes about self-defense and defending our Constitution, which is amazing.
I got to meet the Primary Arms folks last year at the SHOT Show in Vegas, and you're a success story. That company is too. From when they first got started with some import red dots to kind of where they are now. That's a good company, very highly respected now.
It is, and that's it's huge. Huge in the sense that they are like a family, and I enjoy that. The same thing with Walther. I have worked with other organizations, and sometimes it doesn't click because they work which is normal. I mean, large corporations go in at corporate level, and it seems like you're just talking, like with someone, but not really talking to someone. I don't know if that makes sense. But with Walther, with Primary Arms, we talk to each other. We I can tell them, hey, like this past month, hey, I'm finishing my bachelor's. I'm sorry, I'm going to be, kind of disconnected from the world. And their support has been amazing. And they know that now that I'm done, I'm going to go full throttle to everything I'm going to do. But that is something that I value more than anything else, that we can support each other, support our efforts, support the Second Amendment, and yet sit down, have ideas, have our own even discrepancies, and trying to go to a common ground.
When you were teaching courses, and maybe you will again in the future now that the college is wrapped up, tell me about some of the misconceptions of the students that you saw from when you brought them in to when you took them through your course and how they left. What I'm seeing now is, before it was gun people that were showing up at classes. Now we're getting a lot of people that really have very little experience. They may have come from the other side of, the politics, and kind of their eyes are being opened now once they actually get to
Right.
experience shooting a firearm. So tell me about that a bit.
Well, like I said, I have not really taught much in the past couple of years. Also because of COVID, it was mess here when I moved here in Virginia. But no, I think it doesn't necessarily change whether you are not too much into firearms or you are. And that comes with, because firearms itself, the gun itself already, because of the news, because of maybe past experiences, have some negative connotation for many people, especially new shooters. It's like, oh my God, it's a firearm, it's a fear. So one of the first thing I tell them, and that's something I've been applying in the last few years, believe it or not, is a little bit of a short meditation. Especially with the ladies. And in the short meditation, what I tell them or make them realize is that they are in control. They are powerful in themselves, that they are a lot bigger, that they are the being who can manipulate this thing, who is an inanimate object. And to create that inner strength makes them realize, like, oh yeah, of course I can do this. To give you an example, not too long ago, I was very happy to be part of a military wives training. So I was there, I was supporting the team. And there was one lady who she had never shot a firearm for like 15 years because I think was one of her friends make her shoot a 44 Magnum the first time she ever shot a firearm. Right. So she said, they gotta laugh them, but she didn't. And she never touched a firearm 15 years, even though she grew up with, her family with firearms. So it was that experience, that very negative, strong experience that changed her outlook to the firearm. So I took her to the line. And I literally said, we didn't have necessarily much time to do like a mini meditation, but I look at her in the eyes. I said, listen, you look at you to yourself. You're a woman, you are do this, you can do this, blah, 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 blah. And then I grabbed the firearm and I said, look at how I'm gonna shoot this firearm. And I'm gonna shoot it with one hand, not with two, but one hand. I loaded one round and I shot one hand. And after I shot one, and she was right next to me. And after I shot that firearm, and I asked her, did the gun, was it too bad? And she's like, no. Did the gun hit me in the face? And she's like, no. There's something wrong with me, I'm in pain. She said, no. Okay, so it's okay. So I put the gun in her hands. I put only one round because I didn't know what was gonna happen afterwards, right? So I put one round and load the gun, put her, and I embrace her. So I touch her shoulders. And I said, we're going to do this together. Okay. And I said, all the process. I told her about the sight alarm and all that stuff. She's pressing the trigger, boom. And she fired. She put the gun down. And I looked at her and I said, wasn't that bad? And she's like, no, it wasn't that bad at all. And I'm like, do you wanna shoot some more? And she's like, heck yeah. So I think it doesn't, she came from from a firearm somewhat background, I'm military wife, but it doesn't matter. So I think it's important to letting people know that they are in power of that, the same way you are in power with your vehicle, with your motorcycle, with your knife. You can create these fears. It's just a something that is external and has been influenced by other, obviously, means like the mainstream media and so on and so forth, or like her experience, that was not necessarily that good.
Yeah, that for other instructors out there, a great example of knowing your student before you put a firearm in the hand, what their experiences are. Maybe they've had a negative experience that, just like Gabby just said, you need to work through that before you, put a firearm in their hand. So that's good stuff.
Definitely.
Good example there. So what's next for you? Understand some competitions not too far down the road.
Now, yeah, competitions. I have an event on March 18th. Well, first of all, I have surgery. I torn my ACL on last year after nationals, but nothing stops me. I mean, only God will stop me whenever my time comes. Okay, so I have my surgery for my ACL, which I've been training physically now to be physically strong for a better, faster recovery. After that, which is going to be at the end of March, then on April, I think the 16th, I think most likely I will be at the NRA show. It's going to be very close to my surgery, so we'll see, but I think I'll be able to make it. Then after that, I have I'm going to be a keynote speaker at the university, Hillsdale University, for a fundraising. Yeah, I'll be there. Then I'm going to be giving classes at the 8 Girl and a God conference. Then I'm preparing also for USPSA Nationals. I intend to attending USPSA Nationals in June. I'm also, this is kind of secret, but I guess it's not going to be secret anymore. It's something I'm working on. I'm working on creating an organization. Like, oh, there he is. Creating an organization, Second Amendment, gun organization, but with English and Spanish content. There's literally no Spanish content when it comes to firearms, and I want to, embrace also that, English speaking Americans, second and third generation Hispanics can go to the organization, but also Hispanics, and even around the world. My goal is that hopefully my organization is global, because we also need to educate people inside and outside the United States about the benefits of the Second Amendment and gun rights.
Amen. That is for sure. We appreciate you doing that. We appreciate you joining us today. And here comes Kitty again.
Oh.
Hopefully, in the future, we'll get you to Iowa and you can speak to the folks here. I know Michael Ware, one of our board members, has been chatting with you about that. So
definitely.
Tell me, how do folks find you? Are you on which social media? Just kind of direct where the best spot to keep track of Gabby is.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. Give me 1 second. Let me try this one. Let me try and bring this one here so you can see him. Look at this. Look at this face. Look at this face.
Big whiskers.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram as Gabby Franco TS4. TS4 is like for Top Shot 4. Facebook, Gabby Franco TS, and you can also find me on Twitter. I'm on Truth Social. So I'm, everywhere, or also go to my website. It's very easy, GabbyFranco.com.
All right. Any cat pictures on the website?
Yes. No, they're not.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll let you get on with your day. Thanks for being our guest today, and just encourage our Iowa Firearms Coalition folks to keep track of Gabby, and hopefully we'll get you to a Second Amendment Day in Iowa before too long.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I would love to do that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.